Good Tuesday morning, everyone, and welcome into today's daily Bible reading for July the 23rd. Today we are reading together Psalm number 89. The 89th Psalm is the last psalm in the third book of the Psalter. It has been given the title in my Bible, Perplexity about God's Promises. We were told that it is a maskil of Ethan the Ezrahite, and this is a psalm that kind of flips things on its head a bit. In a number of the Psalms, we have seen where a psalm will begin with a tone of lament and then evolve into a tone, evolve into a tone of praise. But this one begins with the praise and then kind of devolves into a tone of lament. This is a bit of a longer psalm, so we want to go ahead and get into it today to read along here and then have a little breakdown of what we find here within this text. Thanks so much for taking some time to read along with me on this Tuesday. Just really busy over the weekend, didn't have time to sit down and give this text the proper attention that it needed. Sometime throughout the weekend, be able to post this yesterday. So here we are posting today, and hope that it will help everybody to have something to think about as they begin their week here on this first couple days of the week, not Monday, of course, but on Tuesday, thinking about God's promises. And the real difficulty that the author here has in recognizing God's promises and then trying to reconcile that with the current condition that he or those who are under his direction that they see all around them. It seems there's not really much straight indication of this, but this seems that this psalm probably would have been written towards the end of the southern nation of Judah, whenever things are crumbling and falling apart around them, whenever the throne of David seems to be under threat. The author here is just wrestling with how can we look at God's promises and remember his promise for David's throne to forever stand, and yet here we have David's throne faltering and it seeming to be on the edge of failing. How can this be the case? So let's read about that here in Psalm 89, beginning in verse number 1. Psalm 89, beginning in verse number 1. I will sing about Yahweh's faithfulness or faithful love forever. I will proclaim your faithfulness to all generations with my mouth. For I will declare, faithful love is built up forever. You establish your faithfulness in the heavens. Yahweh said, I have made a covenant with my chosen one. I have sworn an oath to David, my servant. I will establish your offspring forever and build up your throne for all generations. Selah. Yahweh, the heavens praise your wonders, your faithfulness also in the assembly of the holy ones. For who in the skies can compare with Yahweh? Who among the heavenly beings is like Yahweh? God is greatly feared in the council of the holy ones, more awe-inspiring than all who surround him. Yahweh, God of armies, who is strong like you, Yahweh? Your faithfulness surrounds you. You rule the raging sea. When its waves surge, you still them. You crushed Rahab like one who is slain. You scattered your enemies with one powerful arm. The heavens are yours. The earth also is yours. The world and everything in it, you founded them. North and south, you created them. Tabor and Hermon shout for joy at your name. You have a mighty arm. Your hand is powerful. Your right hand is lifted high. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Faithful love and truth go before you. Happy are the people who know the joyful shouts. Yahweh, they walk in the light from your face. They rejoice in your name all day long. They are exalted they are exalted by your righteousness. For you are their magnificent strength. By your favor, our horn is exalted. Surely our shield belongs to Yahweh, our King, to the Holy One of Israel. You once spoke in a vision to your faithful ones and said, I have granted help to a warrior. I have exalted one chosen from the people. I have found David my servant. I have anointed him with sacred oil. My hand will always be with him, and my arm will strengthen him. The enemy will not oppress him. The wicked will not afflict him. I will crush his foes before him. I will strike those who hate him. My faithfulness and faithful love will be with him, and through my name his horn will be exalted. I will extend his power to the sea and his right hand to the rivers. He will call to me, "You are my Father, my God, the rock of my salvation." I will also make him my firstborn, greatest of the kings of the earth. I will always preserve my faithful love for him, and my covenant with him will endure. I will establish his line forever, his throne as long as heaven lasts. If his sons abandon my instruction and do not live by my ordinances, if they dishonor my statutes and do not keep my commands, then I will call their rebellion to account with the rod, their iniquity with blows. But I will not withdraw my faithful love from him or betray my faithfulness. I will not violate my covenant or change what my lips have said. Once and for all, I have sworn an oath by my holiness. I will not lie to David. His offspring will continue forever, his throne like the sun before me, like the moon established forever, a faithful witness in the sky. Selah. But you have spurned and rejected him. You have become enraged with your anointed. You have repudiated the covenant with your servant. You have completely dishonored his crown. You have broken down all his walls. You have reduced his fortified cities to ruins. All who pass by plunder him. He has become an object of ridicule to his neighbors. You have lifted high the right hand of his foes. You have made all his enemies rejoice. You have also turned back his sharp sword and have not let him stand in battle. You have made his splendor cease and have overturned his throne. You have shortened the days of his youth. You have covered him with shame. Selah. How long, Yahweh, will you hide forever? Will your anger keep burning like fire? Remember how short my life is. Have you created everyone for nothing? What courageous person can live and never see death? Who can save himself from the power of Sheol? Selah. Lord, where are the former acts of your faithful love that you swore to David in your faithfulness? Remember, Lord, the ridicule against your servants. In my heart, I carry abuse from all the peoples. How your enemies have ridiculed, Yahweh, how they have ridiculed every step of your anointed. Blessed be Yahweh forever. Amen and amen. And that is the conclusion of Psalm number 89. And again, the conclusion of the third book of the Psalter. It ends in a doxology, as the other two books have done as well. So this blessed be Yahweh forever and ever, amen. This seems to be attached to the end of the psalm to show the conclusion of this particular book. So thinking about Psalm 89, thinking about this text, again, we have an author here, and those who are participating in this rendition of this psalm, we see them wrestling with the reality of Yahweh's faithfulness that is been declared in verses 1 through 37, and then we see verses 38 through 40 or through 51 being the struggle. So it begins with praise and ends with lament, trying to reconcile and understand how God's faithfulness and faithful love that are very much emphasized in the first few verses, and then taking that together with God's unmatched nature of glory and strength and righteousness, justice, faithful love, truth, putting those together with his promises to David that we read about back in 2 Samuel chapter 7. How can those 37 verses, how can they lead to their current circumstance where things are just really, really bad? How can that be the case? In the first four verses, we have a celebration of Yahweh's faithful love and faithfulness. Within this text, we see 2 times in verse 1 and verse 2, Yahweh's faithful love being sung about, it being the focus. I will sing about Yahweh's faithful love forever. I will declare faithful love, for I will declare faithful love is built up forever. His faithfulness is also mentioned in the second half of verse number 1. I will proclaim your faithfulness. Verse number 2, you establish your faithfulness in the heavens. And then David is mentioned in verses 3 and 4, which I think ties in because this is the greatest showing of Yahweh's faithful love and faithfulness. His greatest showing of his hesed, of his faithful love, and then his faithfulness is in the covenant that he made with his chosen one, David. In God's voice, he says, I made a covenant with my chosen one. I have sworn an oath to David, my servant. I will establish your offspring forever and build your throne for all generations. So three key points here I want to make, three key things to focus on. Number one, again, Yahweh's faithful love. Number two, Yahweh's faithfulness. And then number three, the fact that this is going to be something that endures forever. Beginning in verse number 5 and going through verse number 7, we see Yahweh's unmatched nature, even among all the spiritual beings. In the heavens, his praise is exalted in the midst of his holy ones. Among the heavenly beings, among the council of his holy ones, all who surround him, none of them can compare to Yahweh. So of all the spiritual beings that are so glorious in their nature that God created in the beginning, there is nothing that truly compares to Yahweh himself. And this is true whenever it comes to his strength as well. Verses 8 through 13, who is strong like you, Yahweh? Who is strong like you ruling the raging sea, crushing Rahab, this ancient the beastly figure of chaos and disorder. Yahweh crushes Rahab like one who is slain. He scatters his enemies. Again, the heavens declare, or the heavens are his, the earth is his, the world and everything in it. His mighty arm in verse number 3, his hand that is powerful, his right hand is lifted high. So this strength is greater than anything else. It rules over everything else. And then just his character, his righteousness and justice, these are the foundation of his throne. They are the defining, some of his defining characteristics. They are the foundation of his rule over people. That's what the throne often represents, is rule and power, dominion, and authority. So righteousness, justice, faithful love, truth, they go before you. And here's what happens whenever that happens. Well, people are blessed. People are happy. They were able to make a joyful shout. They walk in the light of Yahweh's face. They rejoice in his name. They are exalted by God's righteousness. His magnificent strength, his favor is their horn, their strength. He is their shield. All of these things are a blessing of the people who are able to look to Yahweh and say, Yahweh, he is our king. He is our leader. He is our provider. He is unmatched in every way among the spiritual beings. His strength, his nature, the things that he has promised to David, all of these things make God so great and so worthy of praise. Well, it picks up then in verse 19, going through verse 37, and it's a poetic retelling. We might describe this as a poetic retelling of the events of 2 Samuel chapter 7. Remember that David wanted to build a house for God. And God comes back to him through the prophet Nathan and says, well, if I really wanted one, I could have told you I wanted one. It's not going to be for you to build, but it's going to be for your son to build. But here's what I'm going to do, David. Instead of me allowing you to build me a house, I'm going to make you a promise. I'm going to build your house. I'm going to establish your throne. And again, it is going to last forever. And that's what that's what the content is of verses 19 through 37. Again, it's just the blessings that Yahweh is going to heap upon David and his throne, so long as the throne is faithful to him. In verse number 21, my hand will always be with him. My arm will strengthen him. His enemies will not oppress him. The wicked will not afflict him. I will crush his foes. I will strike those who hate him. My faithfulness and love will be with him. His horn will be exalted. I will extend his power to the sea. He will call on me. He's going to call me his father. I'm going to be his rock and the rock of his salvation. I'm also going to make him my firstborn. So literally the firstborn, as I am to my parents, the first one born. No, that's not the idea here. It's not about the timing of the birth, but instead what it represents. And what this represents is in the very next line, the greatest of the kings of the earth. So whenever you think about Jesus being the firstborn of Yahweh, it's not, or excuse me, of his father, it's not that he, again, was the first one to be born or to be created, but it is the preeminence that Jesus has over all things. So David here himself will be like his firstborn, will be the greatest of all the kings. Um, and to him, Yahweh will always give his faithful love. His covenant will be with him, and he's going to establish his line forever, his throne as long as heaven lasts. So that's the foundation here, is Yahweh's covenant with David, that he will have his throne, that he will have his descendant rule over it, or rule from it, and rule over God's people. Now, if David's descendants rebel in verses 30 and 31, abandon his instruction, do not live by the ordinances, dishonor his statutes, do not keep his commands, then I will call their rebellion to account with a rod, their iniquity with bows. There will be discipline. It's not that they can just do whatever they want to. No, there's an expectation with this covenant. But even if they rebel, yes, there's going to be discipline, but that is not going to mean a rejection of the promises from God's perspective. It does not mean he's going to break his covenant, because Yahweh says here, I will not withdraw my faithful love from him or betray my faithfulness. I will not violate my covenant or change what my lips have said. So once and for all, this is what's been established here. Once and for all, I've sworn an oath by my holiness. I will not lie to David. His offspring will continue forever. His throne, like the sun before me, like the moon established forever, a faithful witness in the sky. So this is the foundation of what's going to come next. This is what Yahweh has said. The psalm praises him for his faithful love, for his covenant loyalty, for his faithfulness. He's praised him for his gloriousness and his strength. It's praised him for his character. It's praised him for the promises that he's made to David. So this is all leading up to verse 38 with the but. Yahweh, these are historical things. These are things that are realities. These are the promises that you made to your servant David. And you said, yes, there's going to be discipline, but I'm not going to break my covenant. But from the perspective of the author and those who are enduring the circumstances that have led to these difficult thoughts, it sure looks like you have spurned and rejected him. It sure looks like you have become enraged with your anointed, that you have repudiated the covenant with your servant, completely dishonored his crown, broken down all his walls, reduced his fortified cities to ruin. All who pass by him plunder him, and he's become an object of ridicule to his neighbors. You have lifted high the right hand of his foes, and you've made his enemies rejoice. You've turned back his sharp sword. You've not let him stand in battle. You made his splendor cease and have overturned his throne. You have shortened the days of his youth. You have covered him with shame. So what gives? What gives? Which is true? Which is reality? He's left here drowning in the reality of what he sees with his eyes, and he's wondering, how can God promise such things but then allow what's happening? Again, it seems to fit with the downfall of Judah. How can this be true? So verses 46 through 51 close out the psalm kind of open-ended, because there is no resolution that is reached in this psalm. And this is the author of this psalm just laying it all out. Ethan is just laying it all out. He's laying it out before God and just expressing the difficulty that he's facing. He's trying to understand what's going on. So the question is, how long, Yahweh? How will you hide forever? You promised that the throne would stand forever, and that doesn't seem to be happening. So will you hide forever? Will your anger keep burning like fire? The request is to remember how short my life is. Have you created everyone for nothing? What courageous person can live and never see death? Who can save himself from the power of Sheol? Where is the faithful love that we've read about and that we've seen and that we've experienced? Lord, where are the former acts of your faithful love? that you swore to David in your faithfulness. Remember, the psalm began with the praising of Yahweh for his faithful love, for his hesed, for his covenant loyalty, and for his faithfulness, and for the promises that he made to David. Where did that go? Are the promises now null and void? Remember, Lord, the ridicule against your servants. In my heart I carry abuse from all the peoples. How your enemies have ridiculed Yahweh, how they have ridiculed every step of your anointed. Has Yahweh's anointed been abandoned? That's the question the author of this psalm seems to be asking. Is this the end? Has the promise or have the promises that Yahweh made to David, have they failed? And, that might have been the question that somebody was asking at the cross. Jesus, the son of David, they see him on the cross and they're wondering, has the promise failed? Have the promises of Yahweh failed? Is this one not the one? Has he been abandoned by God? Just think about everything that's mentioned here. So much of this could very much fit into the scenario of the cross and everything that went around concerning it. It looks very bleak. It looked very bleak at the cross. It looks very bleak in the eyes of the psalmist here. Where are the former acts of your faithful love? Well, of course, for us, we know the end of the story. We know that Yahweh's faithful love did prevail, and the fact that Jesus was raised on the third day. And certainly for the psalmist here, people who are looking back after the psalm might have been written, and considering the fact that they did end up coming back from captivity and were able to establish the people once again in the promised land, they see God's faithfulness enduring. And through the years of silence, and then through the time that Christ arrived in his ministry and everything he accomplished, they see God's faithful love surely being brought to fruition here. And the fact that David's throne has been established forever by Jesus. So where are the former acts of your faithful love that you swore to David in your faithfulness? Well, they're coming. They're coming. You might not see it right now. Things might seem bleak. You might think that there's no hope, but it's coming. God's love, his faithful love, his faithfulness, they will endure, and they will be fulfilled. That's our thoughts for today here on Psalm number 89. Tomorrow we will read the first psalm of the fourth book of the Psalter. Just a few psalms, 16 or 17 psalms here in book number 4. We'll be reading Psalm 90 tomorrow about eternal God and mortal man. This is one of the cool, unique psalms. It is a psalm of Moses. Very much looking forward to reading that with you and thinking about that with you tomorrow. Thanks so much for taking some time to read along with me on this Tuesday. Thanks for your patience as I took an extra day to get this out. Hope it's been a blessing to you, and hope that it will give you some things to think about as you go throughout your day today. Again, we'll be back at it again tomorrow on Wednesday, reading Psalm number 90. Hope to see you then. Take care, and God bless.